Hey guys, it's the Brothers Wisp again. This is going to be the Wispapalooza 2016 wrap up. All my saltiness is gone. I've exercised the demons. I'm not upset that I didn't get to go anymore. And we've got three of the brothers up here that actually attended. So, first we have Justin Miller from Virginia.
Hi.
That's all you get, guys. That's it. He's a little lagged. We've got Tom Smith, who's perpetually jet lagged, all the way from Ireland. Say words so people recognize your voice, fool.
Hello,
There we go.
America.
America. All right, then we got Hammy,
Builder
Mike Hammett.
2016.
Yeah, everybody
Hello.
knows
Uh,
Mike Hammett. Everybody knows Mike Hammett.
for
He get
better or for worse.
yeah, he gets around like chlamydia. It's crazy. So a couple of the guys were on some panels. So Tom and Mike specifically were on some panels. Miller just kind of milled about and ate free things. Apparently, he doesn't have anything to contribute. Nah, I think he's just super tired right now. So we'll keep picking at him until he says some stuff. I guess first we'll just kind of quickly cover some of the panel stuff you guys were in, right? So, Tom, you did network best practices and network security best practices. So, how do you think you did? Were you amazing?
The feedback was positive anyway. It was kind of cool. Like the network best practices was there was two panelists, or there was three other panelists, and a guy called Burge with an unpronounceable surname. Sorry, Burge, but he was from Wireless 2020, and they were talking about like a lot about LTE stuff. So in fairness, I was kind of took a back seat on the LTE stuff because it's not my forte. But then let's say on bandwidth management, there was some stuff about bandwidth management and like integrating with Netflix and internet exchanges. And we kind of got to chat because the guys were all talking about like one Novacek from All Points Broadband, and he take a bit. So I kind of joined in that. I think he was slagging off the 750s. So I was saying, well, they're the Soho product line, so they're not really the enterprise ones. But because he's, in fairness, one of the lucky people using Juniper. So it was an interesting session, but it was an hour long, and you had four panelists and one moderator. So you've less than 15 minutes each, and there was about 10 different topics. But there seemed to be a strong interest in internet exchange stuff that I think, and then Mike jumped in on as well. Of course, we could have had a video, except Mike decided not to video it. So,
I was told I couldn't, so I didn't.
and you see, I just went around to all the panelists and said, look, can we video you? If there's a major fail, like someone catches you like a rabbit in the headlamps with a question, we'll edit it out. Unlike Greg, because Greg loves doing that to me.
Hey,
I
man,
remember like,
that's why people. That's why people pay attention to this stuff. It's adversity, right? They want to see you
but no, but in
strive, the
fairness,
struggle.
no, but it's awesome. Like, but yeah, so like there was positive feedback, and afterwards, I'd come up to Tim Novacek. Um, I think it'd be worth having him on the show at some stage. And we got to thrash about a lot of different ideas, layer two redundancy and stuff like that. So it's really nice. The kind of cool thing about these conferences is that you can just bounce a similar level, or you can have people who are new, and you can learn from people who are like Burge was very helpful on the whole LTE stuff. So because like some of the questions beforehand, he was kind enough to, he was very structured as a moderator as well. He ruled it like an iron fist, which I told him he would need with the likes of me. I said, getting me to talk, that's not the issue. It's getting me to shut up is the trick.
Amen.
Praise it.
Exactly.
So, but
So,
yeah, like
so you've
so
mentioned
we really enjoyed
LTE.
that session. There was a lot of LT talk,
Well, you've mentioned
and that was good.
LTE a few times. What's the Tom Smith impression of LTE at this point? Are you dying to grab
It's
it?
pretty complex. You need a fairly high budget compared with other platforms.
Budget as in
Like
price or link budget, or what are we talking about?
no, like in terms of in fairness, the feature set of the bandwidth offered, do seem to outweigh anything else there. Okay, period. I think cadmium comes close to it. Let's be honest. But if if you were talking about capability versus simplicity, I would probably say cadmium is kind of very, my thought process to say cadmium is kind of where it's at. If you were saying about like bandwidth and you had a lot of money, I think LTE has obviously a place. But even one of the guys from Rise Broadband was saying, basically LTE, it requires a lot of standards and management for roaming and mobility as for the big operators' requirements. Well, as he was saying, well, when you've got static clients, that's not really what you need. You needed something significantly simpler. So, but the 3GPP standard doesn't allow for that. So, like Burge and the guys had a good kind of session on it, and that's how you needed an evolved packet core EPC to actually run it, and that's where the kind of expense comes in. The cost of the base stations is reasonably competitive for what you're getting in terms of client density. You need client density for it to work out, but in terms of the scalability of it, yeah, it's impressive. So from that point of view, like I think anyone there would have learned a lot. Like I gave full disclosure about our broadband, our capabilities. Like we were saying, we were locked in at around 35 meg per sector with MikroTik, the way it is currently, while, obviously cadmium. You guys came over to me afterwards kind of chatting to me and God. This out of it was just matter of fact, we're getting around the 108 meg aggregate, and so I said that's one of the options we're potentially looking at going forward.
Very cool.
So the guys were saying that you could get there was 3 options for an evolved packet core. You could buy a unit from Telrad for around, don't quote me on this, $3,500, I think, which is a half 19 price, and that seemed to be the cheapest in terms of what it could do, but probably enough for any operator. ZTE were offering a cheap, what they call a cheap solution for 100,000 for a centralized virtualized packet core. But they said, look, this is carrier class, carrier grade. It would differentiate you from all the competition. Except, however, I told them that I probably only need 1/10 of the feature set. Come back to me with another price. But like in fairness, and then some other lads were saying that the full chassis-based packet cores that other guys pay is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars to $1.5 million. And then I was talking to a really nice guy from Canada called Sammy, I forget his second name, and he was promoting kind of a hosted solution. So literally, it's like one of those necessity things. By sitting down with Burge, and from not knowing anything about LT to an hour discussion with them, and then the best practice session, you're actually up to speed and kind of what you need, and it kind of opens your mind that LT is not just an access technology; it's a full connectivity and client and subscriber management technology, which is kind of a different paradigm from where we've been with likes of Cadmium, Mimosa, MikroTik, Ubiquity. Where you basically, like I was trying to explain to them, you can see their eyebrows like rising as I was saying, look, clients need to lash them onto a VLAN, give them internet, or lash them onto another VLAN or a virtual access point and give them a private WAN service. I said our requirements are quite small. We don't need roaming. It was an interesting get to talk about stuff that I'd be slightly stronger on, thanks. I was kind of very much a fish out of water with LT, kind of going, whatever he says. But they were talking about the network management, and I was saying that, whatever you have, make sure you have something like smoke ping for simulated congestion in your network, early warning on congestion or performance issues on your network. and stuff like that. So that you know, and then we were talking about the likes of Netflix. I don't know who brought that up, but then I was explaining to them that there was different ways you can deal with Netflix. Like I was saying that, you know, the demand has shifted obviously from text-based internet to video, and now from video standard definition to high definition to 4K to all this kind of crazy stuff. So I said just embrace it, but know that you can restrict Netflix enough to give the client what they need without hammering their network and providing higher definition than the customer actually wants or needs. Sorry, needs maybe rather than wants. So that to keep your network going. So we just said, I was just saying about the algorithm, and then I was also just talking about the caching options available from Netflix in terms that, you know, Netflix will give you a caching box if you have about 3.2 gigs. As far as I'm aware, that may have been up to 5 gigs recently, but as far as I know, the last time I was talking was 3.2. They'd be happy to lash a box in.
Yeah,
and
I know Mike's just recently been down that road with Netflix, and he's flashing the 5 sign, so I'm assuming it's 5 now, at least here in the States, maybe?
Yeah, yeah. Like on the website it says 5. I think we were gonna have 6. I think they told us that they would take the box away if we fell below 2.
For how long?
So kind of there's kind of a, I guess, higher entry point to justify, and they'll let you hold on to it for a little while in case you have some sort of, shorter term issues.
Yeah, no, and like there was a lot of interest in that specific topic. Like, there was a queue of people talking to us afterwards. So I was explaining to them to be either, look, if you join your local internet exchange, that's the easiest way to get Netflix. If you don't have a local internet exchange, get off your ass and do one, like Mike did. Shout out to Mike. And you know, and I said that the more eyeballs, and I said, talk to your competitors, talk to people, do the OpenIX model of internet exchange. You know, get people, like, get loads of eyeballs together. And if there's eyeballs, content networks will come. And then another guy actually asked about the Microsoft update problem. And I said, I've never really had that problem, but I said, again, it's the same thing as Netflix. Join a peering partner and reduce your transit costs, blah, 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 blah.
You know, I wonder. So just to kind of interrupt really quick while we're on the Netflix train, I wonder if Netflix has ever entertained the idea of, right, coming to smaller wisps like us and letting us put our own caching boxes in, right? But you don't cache the entire core content they have, right? Because I know the boxes they put in are pretty filled out. What if it was just the top 10% of traffic, right? And you have a box loaded up with 10 terabytes of storage, and so like when Luke Cage drops on Netflix, they just cache it local and then hit there. And you know, any of the other anomalous stuff that people might be going to, they just go straight there. I can see that cutting down on, a good chunk of your traffic, and wouldn't cost them anything.
I would imagine that they probably have legal challenges in, how they can store content places, because the worst people in the world to work with are people that produce content.
Don't get me down that road.
Oh, yeah.
I've chased that.
That's
It's a
it.
nightmare.
So their hands are probably tied as far as how they store it, and they probably can't let you store it on yours legally, officially.
Okay.
And it's
So
probably not worth their time to have a small box. Because they just,
that's a fair point, Mike. What I've noticed though is, let's say if you take it like how, let's say, I've worked with another ISP who's had an IPTV platform, and all their, let's say when you do like video on demand and you store it locally in your box or something like that, or a TV series, it's actually encrypted on the drive itself. So if it's a box that you don't necessarily control, similar to the way, so make a smaller, cheaper version of what Greg's alluded to. But if they do the encrypted, like if they encrypt the content on the drive so that like you and I can't just shut down the Netflix box, take out the hard drives and go, here's all of our free videos. And that's kind of what they literally do. And even Netflix say it, that the content management, the content itself is stored on the caching device, but the DRM, the user management, all that type of stuff is still in
Still on the
AWS.
cloud. And what if they did a say they released an appliance version, right? That wasn't the big monster box that they would actually sell to us. So maybe you pay $4,000 and you get that top 10%. You know, if that $4,000 saves you from having to upgrade your circuits in a in a significant way, I mean your ROI could be, I don't know, a few months on something like that.
Absolutely. Well, being honest, like, yeah, that's not a bad idea. In fact, I can email one of the Netflix people that actually came and visited INEX, and like I have to say, they've been very open appearing. They do want to engage with this piece. They don't want to overrun our net. They just basically want users to have access to their content in a cost-effective manner for you and them as possible.
Yeah.
And that's been my experience with them, as in they actually don't like doing the public peering. They prefer doing private peering as kind of one of their things. So if you can't do caching, but you're in the same data center, you can just get a fiber cross connect to them. If you're, between the cheapest way of I found of peering with them was obviously using the public peering. But as you start to fill your port with their traffic, you probably would want to consider private peering. After you're filling that with traffic, you're probably looking at, let's just do caching for ourselves. So that's, I think, the kind of staged, let's say, process that you might follow before you get it. But I do agree with you, Greg. I probably would withhold the idea of buying it because I'm sure they'd pay for it.
Well, even then, so I'm doing the quick calculation. In an average data center in the U.S., you're going to pay around $300 for a fiber cross connect. If I had to pay,
Serious?
yeah, that's a month. If I had to pay $4,000 for a box, my ROI is just over a year, and then I'm actually saving money by paying $4,000 to get some kind of special caching box. And
Yeah.
on top of
Our
that,
cross
I'm
connects to
realizing all
Europe
those.
are.
But yeah, it's ridiculous. Even if you get a good deal, you're pushing out your ROI to a year and a half, and then all the while you're saving on your bandwidth, in the interim. So I could see a lot of folks just plunking down the cash, because it's not necessarily the transport, right? Once they get it on their network, they can handle the transport out to their end clients. It's just they can only afford so much internet.
There's one slight clarification. They do say that for the caching box to actually make sense, one of the reasons they were saying is that the refreshing of the cache takes up so much bandwidth in itself that they were saying there's a kind of point where the caching box makes sense. So that's just one thing to watch. Do you understand? So they have to flush and push content to that cache. And what they're saying is, for whatever reason, if you don't have the 3 gigs, it's not going to make a whole pile of sense. Although I do like your idea where you say, give me the 80%, give me this 50%, top 50% of the content, and see how it goes.
I mean, Netflix keeps such amazing analytics. I've heard that they have whole teams and they built just incredible monitoring systems just for these specific things, right? So they can pretty much dictate how, based on your viewing habits, are you going to binge watch this? Once you get to a certain point on a show that you're going to finish it all. And I mean, they have all this stuff and they know which shows are going to be pulled the highest content wise. So why couldn't they just, I mean, they know what they're doing. They could easily write some algorithm that would just dump the right stuff to the right area.
Yeah. No, and I was encouraging guys like at the press thing, or at the present, or the best practices session. I was kind of saying, look, Netflix are very open. They want to work with you, and I think it's wise to work with them. I said, apart from Comcast, because of the whole controversy last year. So that got a few giggles.
All right, so tell me a little bit about, because we've totally sidetracked. Tell me a little bit about your security best practices. How was that?
Yeah, so Bird on the last one, just to put a nail or a pin in it, as you call it, Greg. Yeah, Bird's, he divided up the time, made sure we kept in the time, because there was another session after ours, and it was a pretty nice, pretty well moderated session. He kind of ran it very well. So I just want to say that. And the other panelists were great to work with, and so I'll just say that. But yeah, so the other the best practice one, which was kind of my favorite one, I suppose, because it's kind of nearest my heart. Not that best practices are something I like ignore or anything, but yeah. So myself and it was myself and John Brown, from CityLink Fiber, and Chris Toomey, so from he's an attorney out of Washington DC, I believe, and very nice guy. So he was kind enough to leave us a very long leash to allow us present an idea to the customer or to the participants, and then have John present an idea or ideas to the participants, and then we had basically a free form kind of Q&A session afterwards. And because we were lucky that we were kind of positioned before lunchtime, so we could just talk on. So we took about 2.5 hours out of an hour session. So it was quite enjoyable. So there was great ideas. So we were discussing subscriber security. So we were talking about like how to harden subscribers, steps to take, in terms of preventing them from being DDoS amplifiers. I actually talked a little bit about BGP kind of best practices in terms of route filtering, and John went on about network hygiene, about BCP38, which I backed up, and I was like, BCP38, yeah. So we did a bit of singing as well at the session.
Oh, that's terrifying. So just out of curiosity, for BCP38, do you prefer just to do filter rules at the border, or are you what is that? Reverse path forwarding. What do you
URPF. I use URPF loose throughout the network, and then let's say facing the access layer where it's generally single path, I do URPF strict just at the client's side, so that really kind of cuts out a lot of crap. There was debate and discussion about that, like whether people like firewall rules or not. One guy actually highlighted, which is something I spotted as well, where he put firewall rules and he put the log, and he could see a load of 192.168 traffic coming out from his network, and he was going, "Where is this coming from?" So I was explaining that in fairness, MikroTik, if you put the firewall rule, drop invalid, that stuff that wouldn't be there. But what actually?
Oh, just on a quick note on MikroTik on URPF. I requested back in June, and they accepted the feature request. I don't know if it actually been implemented or not. To be able to adjust that loose or strict or off per interface, because that's how it is in the kernel. The raw kernel has it that way, so that way then on a particular router you could set all your client-facing ones as strict and your other ones loose.
Yeah.
And then you wouldn't, and then that way you wouldn't need to do any advanced firewalling to accomplish the same rule. If you, if you could.
And it actually, first John Brown, some of his config, you could see it was per interface on Juniper. So at #MikroTik, get the finger out. Juniper do a better job on URPF than you, so up your game. Bring it up. Bring MikroTik where it belongs to be the best. So
you'll have to get with me after this cast and explain to me what "get the finger out" means. Just not right now, but we'll.
Okay, yeah. Actually, you may want to. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Anyway, moving on. So the security one was pretty good. Good questions. Pretty big crowd.
Yeah, there was really good questions. So that one about so just to explain just something there, where if you're blocking outbound or logging, he was seeing a lot of private addresses. And the reason for it is if you reboot a CPE, but there's an existing connection up and running, so the client thinks there's a connection up and running, but obviously the actual client unit doesn't know it's up and running. The NAT rules only catch new connections, so it'll just forward the traffic out through the NAT, even though if you don't have drop invalid. So it's just something to watch. That the NAT rules only apply to new connections. So so that's one of the things he was spotting. So we kind of got to chat about that. We were talking about one guy kind of said, okay, this is all security from outside your network into your network. What about like clients that you don't trust? And I was like, oh, you mean all of them? But sorry, customer base. But yeah, so basically with that, like we were talking about, okay, there was layer 2 fundamentals that, so we were talking about ARP poisoning, MAC address, spoof MAC address injection to kind of overrun the CAM tables on switches to turn them into basically router, dumb hubs and all that kind of stuff. So kind of like literally, if you can imagine, it was myself and John, and I don't know if you know John, but he's kind of like myself. He likes to talk about security all day long. He kind of showed people Shodan, which actually explained the whole Mirai, what do you call it, the Mirai botnet, that attacked Krebs on security.
Yeah.
So all that like that. So, and he was actually showing how the 328,000. One of the guys was saying there's about 328,000 web management ports are open. And he was actually able to kind of go, here's where he's getting the information from, and it was Shodan.io. That was interesting, I have to say. And it was just literally bouncing. And then he'd say something about, then there was some guys on DNS using OpenDNS for kind of malware prevention. So I was kind of trying to do kind of play it absolutely straight, where I was saying, look, that any security measure that you take to protect your clients should be an opt-in, because let's say, so the guys were saying that OpenDNS will automatically block malware. So they'll block like command and control DNS requests out so that, protect clients. The issue there is that if you're trying to do research on command and control clients and they're blocking it, they're blocking your research, if you know what I mean. So you're trying to detect this stuff.
Well, I mean, a lot of command and control does IRC, or I've seen some command and control that's using Twitter. So.
Oh yeah, no, but it's more just that they were saying that this was just one element of OpenDNS trying to improve security. One way is it's a censorship, and also like I was pointing out the case where, let's say, if your box is compromised, so you're still showing information for first responders on how to save someone's life. But yes, there's a little bit of a bot running on the same box. Do you deny people access to the domain when, so that there were those questions, the kind of the areas which are gray. There's no right or wrong answer, I think.
Yeah.
But it was great. Like, and so yeah, consequently, it was about 2.5 hours of just talking about security ideas. Team Kimmer came up. Remote trigger black hole routing, the stuff that I was talking, that Justin sometimes nominates me as a one-trick pony, whatever, Justin. but it was cool. Like I have to say, and it was an absolute pleasure, I have to say, working with John and Chris and that. I also talked briefly about European data regulation. We're slightly ahead of the US on regulation of privacy. That the actual laws are now beginning to catch up with technology, and laws regarding how you store data, how you protect it, what you do to respond to threats or incidents. So like if a server gets compromised, what should you do? So there's things like notification requirements. So you have to notify the data protection commissioner and all this type of stuff. So there's some interesting concepts there that US don't seem to have, particularly Yahoo, because like in fairness, like if you look at LinkedIn, it was about 1 week to 1 month since they were compromised, and they said, look, everyone, you need to change your passwords. And certain other institutions, it was 2 years. So,
I don't think that they knew they were compromised for 2 years.
Yahoo? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, find it hard to believe.
So I listened to some stuff and read a little bit of stuff on that, and something I found interesting was the guy that was the lead on security for Yahoo one day just up and resigned, right? There was no scuttlebutt, no reason that anybody could see any, there was no shenanigans that you could point to say this is why this guy left. And then he went and joined the Facebook team. And then, that was about the time I think where they were speculating that the security guys were pushing, say, hey, we're vulnerable in these situations. We should do these things to fix it. And the management team basically said, yeah, we get that, but we're not going to do that. And so I was hearing some stuff, and they were saying that sometimes security can be a very financial decision. They were saying that people have done some research on these breaches, and the average cost to a company is about 200 grand. That's it, right?
Hmm.
So theoretically, Yahoo was a company that was in trouble, and it's still in trouble, right? Financially in trouble. So, say you release something like that, you say, hey, we're vulnerable, or even, hey, just everybody change your password. Theoretically, they could have lost some percentage of their user base that would have adversely affect their monetary income in excess of the $200,000 that an actual breach would cost an average company, right? So financially, they were saying the Yahoo management team made the right decision not to beef up security. If you're just looking at it from a dollars and cents perspective, not necessarily a security perspective or whatever. And something else I heard was, Verizon's in talks to buy them, and you didn't hear Verizon throwing up their hands and freaking out, which sort of assumes that maybe Yahoo went ahead and gave them a heads up like a long time ago, saying, "Yeah, hey, we
Oh yeah,
actually we
full
had this breach,
disclosure.
and
Yeah.
yeah, right." Um,
Now
Obviously, they're asking for a discount in this $4 billion merger, but you know,
it could also be, Greg, that if it was foreign actors in play, like the only excuse that is probably excusable in that situation, in my humble opinion, is if, let's say, foreign intelligence, so that, let's say, the US were like aware of it, and they were like, okay, we need to track this down and let it play out a bit, or something like that. So if the US intelligence services were involved, and probably said, don't know notifications are, when I say involved, I mean involved in the counter intelligence operation. I'm not accusing the US intelligence services of being involved, but if there was foreign intelligence involved in cracking of Yahoo, which apparently it was, then they may have wanted to track, gather data, and that would probably be the only other reason why you would actually keep the actual. There's another thing that I've seen. I've been involved in a couple of incident responses with mail providers, and one of the guys just rushed out to do a press release, and we were still fixing the problem. I was giving him the advice that, look, you can wait a week, a month. You're talking to the data protection commissioner. That's all you need. And it was actually quite what actually happened was, by disclosing that they had an issue while we were patching the servers, bringing them back online, the actual operations team were totally over. They were being burdened they were running at their max, and then to have, oh, we're getting a load more attacks now because people were aware that they had an issue. So people were actually like almost swarming it. But luckily, we were able to obviously counter it. And I mean, the guys did an exceptional job. They did an exceptional job with me because I was surprised that they were still talking, because they thought I was responsible for the press release. I would have actually punched me, because we were running at 38 hours, like as in a row,
hmm
and you have this extra load, like. So it's just one of those days that is just, with complex systems. There was a good team involved, about 20 people, and then this thing happened. But so in that way, I'd be always saying, alert people when you can, and certainly the sooner the better. But only after you've gotten the situation contained, and that
all right.
and it's running.
So for somebody as security conscious as you, do you feel okay letting a compromised system keep going in the same manner for 2 years so a government can sort of try and track it down? Do you think it really takes that long? Or are
Um,
you insinuating that it would be some kind of counter espionage? Like, we know they're watching it, so let's put in some crap that we want them to know in there so they'll grab that. Is that where you're going with that?
uh, You see, in that situation, it's a kind of it's kind of a shit sandwich. Sorry, that's the word I'm looking for. As in, you don't have really two options. You don't really have any nice options. As in, you alert all the customers. You get a bit of egg in their face. That's good for customer service. It's good for, like, look at LinkedIn. There's an example of a company that's gone from strength to strength, but they had an issue. They dealt with it very expediently and did it properly. And shout out to LinkedIn, well done. And it didn't really adversely affect them. I think they're buying up all around them. They're buying up companies that you work for,
Yeah,
correct?
I technically,
And it's
well,
just,
I worked for Linda, then I worked for LinkedIn, and I guess I would technically work for Microsoft now. So there you go.
wait, did Microsoft buy LinkedIn?
Yeah,
God,
they
I've been
bought them
okay. I'm living under a rock. Sorry about that,
for
guys.
multiple
Which
billions.
how much?
A
Uh,
lot,
was it like 12 billion?
30 or something like that.
Was it that much? It was
20 billion.
ridiculous. They
So if you
paid
look at it like that,
they paid in cash.
nice.
Yeah, right? It's like, pfft, all right.
Yeah, no, I definitely no. So if I was looking at that, I'd have to say LinkedIn was like that. That was an exceptional.
26.2 billion.
There you go.
But if you're like Dick Clark, and I don't want to, I read one of his books, and he seems like a cybersecurity hawk, kind of advocating the use of physical weapons in response to cyber attacks. Kind of going, Dick, that might be an overreaction. Just title. But he actually, yeah, it's an interesting book, Cyber Warfare. Although he does talk about it from the sense that the America is just a complete angel in the whole thing and has never ever conducted attacks foreign wise, cyber wise, which I think all those computers in the desert in Utah, and they're doing something other
I don't know.
than spinning around.
Didn't the government acknowledge that we were part of that Stuxnet thing?
I don't know if they did. I think Edward Snowden certainly did for
Yeah,
100
right. So yeah,
like
I thought we
so. So,
kind of let it slip somehow.
so So I think from a point of view, if that gave the U.S. government and look, if I was an intelligence saying, look, we need to try and prove that these guys are doing it, to get resources politically, to get politically get more resources to defend the nation state, then yeah, the Yahoo would have been an opportunity to do that. But also, as you say, kind of catch people out, drop in bad and deliberate bad intelligence to actually expose threats to physical threats to your nation state, or intelligence threats. So it was a massive opportunity for them probably, and I doubt they didn't do it. And I have no information. I've never heard of that, but I'm just saying that 2 years of Yahoo being hit by a foreign state, and the American government not necessarily jumping up and down about the release 2 years later probably means that they probably were doing it. That's me just adding one and one and getting like 5 million
I
and
guess
51.
I'm also thinking too, if I owned a company it was breached and they wanted to use it for counter espionage or counter terrorism or whatever, if they were paying me enough money, I probably if the government said, here, we'll give you this nice big check, you just don't say anything, I probably would find a way of not letting the cat out of the bag on that one.
Yeah, no, like, look, so I think it would have been a remarkable opportunity for certain people to find out about other people,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
I think I'm hoping for the U.S. government's sake that that's what happened. Otherwise, they're going, oh, we should. So now what they're going to do is they're going to, all the sniffer devices that Edward talks about, they're going to put what you call it, snort, so that they can identify when some American gets hacked, and then they can go, right, we need to go over there and see.
Wouldn't put it
It's
past them.
just a new job
All right,
for the NSA.
put a bow on it, Mike or Tom, so we can get Mike talking a little bit.
Sorry.
All right, I guess that's his bow. Sorry. All right, Mike. So you did some stuff on automation. I know you live on a farm. You've done some automation out there on said farm. Is that the majority of your experience and what you kind of talked about? Give us a little bit on that one.
Actually, no. I talked about the Ubiquity Friday the 13th infection that happened back in May, and how to use Ansible to, or how I used Ansible to fix that. And but make sure to stress that it's not about Ubiquity. It's about Ansible. How to learn, where, I just use Ubiquity to kind of set the stage for, what you could do with it. And I show that, you could use this tool to, cleanse, thousands of machines in a relatively quick amount of time. That people didn't do and thus lost their networks.
All right. So for all of the lay people out there, in automation, right? So like network automation or server automation is usually what you hear this stuff talking about, right? You have like Puppet, which is a client base, so you actually have to install an agent on everything. Well, if you've got network equipment, you can't install an agent, and that's where Ansible steps in, right? So it's a similar sort of concept with automation, only it just SSHs out to the device and performs things. And so Mike use that to cleanse his infection by having it step through and do some various stuff. And I think you actually wrote the script yourself, didn't you?
Well, I I did what I normally do in IT. I took something somebody else did,
Ah.
stole it, make it better, and then used that. There was a bunch of cleaning steps that he didn't have in there, and that I actually produced because the little, because he just dumped scripts onto the forum. If you don't know what Ansible is, you don't know how to use these scripts. Well, I didn't know at the time either, so I took time to figure out how to use these things, then built a guide so that even your grandma could follow the guide. I have hit Control X Y, Enter, like step by step exactly what to do and how to set this up to cleanse the infection. And oddly enough, when I wrote that, I had thought that my network was clean because all of the radios in UCRM at the time said that they were all already were, unvulnerable versions. So I thought, great, I'm good. I don't have to worry about it. Let's just put this together for everybody else. During its execution, I noticed about half a dozen radios that UCRM for some reason didn't set up. So it's good that I did that. Otherwise, I would have had a few radios that had gotten reset. But I was the moderator of the session as well. Did the session? They said, "Okay, great, moderate it. You find people to talk about it." And so we actually got a couple people, and it was a wide range of automation type things or time. Reducing wasted time is what it boiled down to. Todd with Visp didn't even talk technology. He just talked business. Business general, business wasting time. What are you doing? Some of those steps could be technical things. Some of them could be personnel things. Some of them could be nothing at all related to technology. Then the middle guy kind of went through an overview of his WISP and all the things that he's done to reduce wasted time through technical automation. And then I went into the deep dive of here's a configuration that you dump on your computer to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually heard some IT teams talking about how every month they would go through and look at all of their tickets, and they would find out what they got the vast majority of tickets on their systems, and then that would be their focus for automation the next month. So they'd clean that out, and at the end of the next month, they'd do the same thing over until it eventually, most of those repetitive menial tasks, right, got automated out.
Cool.
Except my downfall is that was the only time I've ever used Ansible. So I set it up, ran it once, but haven't used it in the next 5 months. Hopefully,
I forgot everything. So I
No,
looked
but
at.
it was good. Like I was there as a spectator, and I wanted to interrupt Mike, and Justin wouldn't let me. Justin said, "Sit down, Tom. Make it easy for yourself." And I said, "I'm distracting Mike."
Yeah, it's Tom moved from where he was sitting next to the chair by the mic, like as I was talking. And then like he didn't say anything for a while. I was like, Justin must have calmed him down.
Oh, well, no, but it was actually very good. Like in fairness, like it was very succinct. But like I haven't used Ansible, but I'm actually sorely tempted to do it because I don't automate enough. I need to be automating more than I am. So it was, and I did learn from it. So thanks, Mike. And it was pretty well. Like you didn't overtalk any point, like someone here.
I was like, well,
Mentioned names.
so you know what that is at least.
It's cool.
Yeah, Ansible. I was looking at that myself. I need to pick an automation platform and start attempting to use it, right? And so, Puppet seems like it has the most groundswell, right? It's the largest backing or whatever right now, but it's not great for network equipment, right? So, Ansible's
Yeah.
Yeah,
kind of
like
on the other side of the fence.
yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't used Puppet and I only used Ansible once, but it seems like the agent-based ones are much more powerful where you can use an agent,
Yeah,
but are useless when you can't use an agent.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's where you see people start just rolling their own with expect scripts and stuff like that. Whereas an Ansible's already got a lot of that tooling already built in. You just have to kind of work within its infrastructure. I know I think it's a Red Hat project, and they have, I think, a really nice GUI. The trick is the GUI's not free. Ansible itself is free, and you can get all that stuff, right? It's open source. But if you want to get any of the nice, pretty, shiny, curvy interface tools, you got to pay a little bit for those.
And there's actually a cool plugin for network engineers like yourself. It's kind of well a plug. It's more like a framework that builds on top of Ansible that you can have scripts like for onboarding clients and stuff like that, where it'll actually do the variable management and all that. I forget the name of it, but it's on GitHub.
So you're
You
just wasting your
definitely
time.
find it there. But it is network based. But they support like Juniper, Cisco, IBM, a lot of different like platforms that actually have command line stuff.
Well, a lot of the futurists that I've been listening to, or I don't know, maybe just speculators, the guys looking at the industry and where it's going, they're saying that network engineers, at least in the data center realm, are going to be more akin to scripters than they are CLI guys. In the future.
DevOps.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Right. So, at what point is that going to trickle down to us? Kind of the infrastructure, the service providers, right? So most of those guys are on the data center side as opposed to the service provider side, and it's curious. Like I talk whenever I'm talking to a carrier, and you've got an engineer and it's the middle of the night and he's making a change or he's turning something up for you. They'll talk to you, and so I always ask them, how do you guys make your changes? And they're like, oh, we put it in Notepad and we make changes and paste it on the router. I've yet to talk to one that actually uses a real automation system at all, whether it's Zayo, Level 3, um, CenturyLink, any of those guys. The guys
I
that you
think
think would have their crap together are, still
I've
using
actually
Notepad.
seen a Comcast rep or tech put in a config in a Sienna before, 25 lines at a time, because if you pasted it too much, it would overflow
Oh
and
yeah.
disrupt the config.
Oh yeah.
So he's sitting there copying and pasting, copying and pasting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was seeing
For an hour.
Enet do the same. A supplier of ours do the exact same with Sienna Gear, and it's Notepad. It's not Notepad plus plus, just in case they have the font or the character set wrong. Yeah. They but a lot of the IX is actually Greg, I think, are to
Oh,
do with
yeah.
it because they're more and more ports. And that's where I'm actually going to Google while you're talking about stuff to try and find that network thing. But it is awesome.
Well, just put the link in the show notes and we'll add it up so everybody can jump in and do all that stuff. But if you don't find the link, I'm too lazy to go find it for you. So put it in there if you want people to find it. All right, so that's automation. Mike, you also did a panel on virtualization. What did that one sort of consist of?
That one, I was actually did a virtualization session at the last Wispa show this past spring on VMware, because we had a VMware guy, a Proxmox guy, and a Hyper-V guy. This time around, we had The moderator was a Hyper-V guy. There was another guy who was only VMware. Another guy that used a little bit of VMware, but he also did some scale computing. Never even heard of that platform much. I haven't Googled it either because I forgot about it.
Scale computing. What if it's like
And so then there was
a
me
Docker?
left with, yeah, and so it was me with my VMware presentation that I already did, but I also knew Proxmox. So they asked me to do Proxmox, and I didn't really pick up on that until not too long before the show. As in, I'm on the plane editing my VMware presentation. I get to San Diego because I went there for a few days before Vegas, and realized that I needed to do a different presentation than I had already just wrapped up on the plane. At which point, my Proxmox installation was, I mean, it probably hasn't been updated in 8 years. Because I dare not touch the box at this point. Just leave it. I don't want to reboot or anything. Just leave it alone. But we're spinning up new ones to send to a new exchange. And of course, when I start working on that, I lose connectivity to the boxes because they're doing maintenance at the other NOC. Somebody unplugged something. I don't know how to get to it anymore. So I ended up not actually making this presentation until the night before it was due. I was up until about 1:30 in the morning, got up at 6, and it was an 8:30 a.m. presentation.
Gotcha.
So
So you're
I
basically
managed to
Tom
get it all
Smithing
assembled.
it. Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, yeah. So it's basically just kind of showing, kind of overview of how Proxmox worked, and then various screenshots. But yeah, I got that wrapped up, showered, and then got to the room with 3 minutes to spare. You're supposed to be there 5 minutes early, so I guess I was late technically.
Sounds solid. Good questions. Good presentations.
Yeah, thankfully all my fellow presenters were all did a pretty good job. We got some good questions. I don't believe we had a tremendous amount of time, but I think we still addressed any questions that were brought up. Um, you always have a couple stragglers that come up and ask you other things, but not too bad.
That's cool. That's cool. So what did bandwidth strategies consist of? I'm sure you didn't talk about internet exchanges at all.
Yeah, well, let's see here. I was moderator of that one as well. And so we had, because I was trying to have a diverse array of roles or people that speaks on different types of bandwidth strategy. Obviously, I spoke on internet exchanges, and kind of peering in general, not just the exchange, but private peer versus transit versus why you'd want to peer. I did a lot of that. Two of the other guys that were there, they've built their own national networks. I mean, just buying wavelengths, not actually burying conduits or anything. The one other guy, he was just, and I use the wrong word all the time, and he corrects me, and I must not care enough to remember the right way to call it, but I call it a reseller or a broker. It's not his network that he's selling. He's selling you AT&T or Comcast or somebody else.
Oh, he's like a wholesaler kind of guy.
Yeah, but I don't really understand what makes them unique other than the fact that we negotiate the deal and then AT&T pays him separately. Like, I guess the contract is with AT&T or Comcast or whoever directly. It looks like Tom's got a link in our chat. All right. He kind of pitched the whole traditional way, even if it's not direct with the incumbent, resellers and VARs and all that. He covered all that sort of stuff, and of course that drew questions and things. Because people hate spending money on bandwidth, so they want to find his best ways of making it cheap. I just picked up a couple of guys interested in joining Houston once once we get that wrapped up. But I was actually on the agenda committee this year to help decide what we talk about, and I think it worked out well because we got more of what I wanted in the sessions, and all the sessions were all, all had pretty good attendance. Because for a long time it was just kind of the same crap. Not that it was crap, but I first got them to do virtualization last show, and now I added, automation and kind of getting some more advanced topics, not just your basic stuff. And I think people are liking that. I have about 3 or 4 topics that didn't quite make the cutting room floor, but to be fair, there's probably twice as many ideas for sessions as there was slots to fill.
That's good.
So things had to get things had to end up on the floor. Things had to get merged. One of mine was merged in with one of Tom's, but I don't think they touched on it at all because there's just so much content to cover. You just didn't have time. But actually, I was only actually able to make, out of all the sessions, I went to a couple of keynotes, my sessions, and like half of one of Tom's. That's all I made the whole show.
Just too much drinking. Got it.
I don't know. I didn't have a lot of drinking, actually.
These are the jokes, people.
Yeah,
No, Mike was too busy doing. Any of those interviews you guys saw, that was Mike and Tom getting out there, pounding the pavement, talking to people. So I think between that and your presentations and preparation, you probably didn't have much time in between, right?
No.
Yeah.
Speaking of keynotes, Google's keynote was quite interesting. It was interesting though. The amount of people who were genuflecting and bowing and blessing themselves as they were asking questions of the Google VP for the wireless networks was kind of amusing. They were like, "Oh, thanks for coming here to see us," and chatting, and it was quite interesting. They were talking about the Citizens Band Radio Service (CBRS) and how the licensing moving from a static model, FCC model, to where you gotta apply for a license, you get the license, you buy the kit, you put the kit up, and then some guy comes around in a truck and makes sure your EIRP is all good and that you're not deploying it somewhere where you shouldn't be, to being like this dynamic thing where you spin up a device on the site. The guy goes, right, is there any part of the license spectrum available? Can I use it? So they were talking about sharing it with like the naval aircraft carrier radars, so the weather radars for them. So they were saying that they rarely do when they come into port in the Bay Area where they're testing it. That they've only had one instance where the radar kind of said, where they detected the radar and kind of obviously shifted off that licensed frequency. So the Department of Defense are actually, they were saying that they were engaging with the likes of Google and the other stakeholders for some parts of the 3.5 band. We'll stop there before I kind of shoot myself in the foot, because probably Mike and Justin Miller and yourself, Craig, can have more information about the licensing kind of laws in the States. But it was just an interesting thing how they were dynamically, so they use the GPS chip on the device. They don't really know. They were talking about EIRP, that's kind of the loophole left, that you don't really know what antenna is attached, so there's a bit of trust there. But they were saying about, that they would actually decide, that the chip would decide the transmit power and the frequency based on real-time consultation with the FCC database. And obviously, one of the things that came up was like, how are they doing it for sectors? Like, what direction is the sector pointing, to allocate the frequency so it's not overlapping with the different operators. So that was kind of interesting, even though it has absolutely no effect on my life whatsoever.
So if that's Tom shutting up about something that doesn't affect him, I would hate to see him talking about something that's dear to his heart.
But it was just interesting the innovation around the licensing allocation process and how someone as big as Google come in and go, hey guys, why don't you do this? And FTD go, oh, let's just roll over and go, yeah, that's a super awesome idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, it actually that's been a work in progress for probably about 6 or 7 years. You know, it predates Google's access ambitions, but
what about the FCC? What about the white space? Were they like interested in that about 5, 6, 7 years ago?
yeah, but that's actually been going on for about 15.
You said there just before that was 5 or 6 years.
Oh no, well, there's for
So
the
which is it?
CBS ban, it's been a few years, but the
I just
TV
ripped on
white
you.
space
Sorry,
ban,
here lads, will you cut that, please? Actually,
No, not gonna
sorry,
do it.
Mike. Will you continue? Sorry, I'm being a dickhead.
Tom being
so
a
apologies.
jackhole. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
but yeah, but there's a bunch of people on the Ubiquity forums that think it's all doom and gloom and the world's going to come to an end and everything's being set on fire. But no, the CBRS band edition is good stuff. If you don't know what's going on, ask us about it. And reference to Greg's Q, and it's good stuff. It'll help everybody. Ask us questions if you don't know what it is. But I expect once this whole database access technology works out, other jurisdictions will adopt it, and it will extend into several other bands here in the United States. So while it doesn't affect you now, hopefully it will affect you later because then you could get a lot more spectrum. Assuming that the Irish and in the EU, that sort of thing.
Well, I definitely think, look, it was very innovative. And the way and I was impressed with the Google speaker. It was quite interesting. Although, he did move my presentation to a morning slot after a party, which I didn't agree with, but, I suppose.
All right, guys. So this particular one is the ending. We're doing all this stuff out of order. I'm putting it all back together in the right order, hopefully. This is the ending for the Wispapalooza, where we're talking about presentations and things like that, and kind of some of the soft stuff we saw. As far as presentations went, information delivered, things you wished were there, weren't there. Any thoughts on that, Mike? Go.
As always, I want more of my suggestion sessions to be in the schedule next year. That's nothing to do with the fact that I suggested them, of course. But no, it's good to see a lot more technical tracks making it in, and it's good to more advanced technical tracks, new technical tracks. And that trend continues, although I do know there's only so much space on the calendar to put them all in. But hopefully the attendance numbers bear that out. This year, first show I was at, where they actually scanned your badge every room you went into to keep track of how many people go to a given session, so that way they can kind of allocate time slots, take away time to things they thought was a bigger hit than it really was, and hopefully reallocate those to me.
Yeah,
that would be nice.
That's obvious, right? Use your attendance as a vote. That makes absolute sense.
Absolutely. People vote with their feet.
Yeah, for sure. Miller, any thoughts, comments, things you saw, you liked, maybe wish you saw more of, anything changes, blah, blah, blah. What you got?
They were talking about changing up the conference next year. I think they're going to put the Fiber Weekend at the end.
Is that a positive or a negative?
I think it's positive because I don't think the Fiber Weekend gets enough airplay as the rest of the show, and a lot of people don't know when it's happening or if it costs extra or anything about it. So I think it's positive that they're going to throw it at the end of the show.
For those, since this gets a little airplay, I'll fill that in. Fiber Weekend has been going on for a few years now. It's the weekend before the wireless conference. It's like a Friday through Sunday, Monday off, and then Tuesday through Thursday for wireless, or something like that. And they're looking to reorder that so that way wireless is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Wednesday has the overlapping topics dealing with HR and accounting and business things, more focused there, and then fiber at the tail of the week. Because they're saying that Sunday flights into Vegas are the cheapest, Friday flights out of Vegas are the cheapest. So to align the schedule of the show with the cheap flights and giving kind of an layout so that if you want one or the other, you can catch some of the overlapping content if you want to, but you're not necessarily tied down for the whole week.
Cool.
Or part of one week, part of the next week.
Sounds solid. I guess we'll be looking for some announcements on that. All right, Mr. Smith. Comments, changes.
How are
Other
you?
than there needs to be more Smith in these presentations,
Limit of 45 seconds.
right? Go.
I'm glad you asked me that question. Basically, yes. So, yeah, look, great sessions, great conference in general. Trina Coffee did a great job. Nathan Stuke was very good to coordinate between all the different speakers. I know that Mike Hammett was helping out there as well. So thanks, guys. The agenda committee was pretty cool. I'd like to see more birds of a feather sessions, maybe half-day sessions for certain topics. Yeah, I suppose more than of Tom. But hopefully people... we had a full house both times, so I think they'll be interested. Even though my brothers didn't attend, sniff. But no, it was great. Really enjoyed it, and hopefully I'll be back again as long as someone doesn't send an email say that Tom Stewart was too much of a salesman. But it was all good. It was awesome, and I really enjoyed it. Sorry that more of you couldn't attend. Those of you who could attend, and those of you who came up and said hi, gave us a shout out because we were brothers with, which is humbling. So one guy asked me, who set it all up? And I said, I did. I took full credit for that. I said that. I said, you want to talk to Craig and Mike Hammett for that. But it's really nice. So when you see us, don't be afraid. We don't bite. Well, I probably bite more than most.
More
But
than once, yeah.
just come up and say hi. Because it is nice to hear feedback, positive or negative. We prefer positive, but maybe you might want to tell me, come up and just tell me once in a while, Tom. Can you do that, please?
I would like to tell you that, yes.
Yeah, well, I suppose, but get your agents to do it. Oh, Jesus, 9 out of 10 people tell me I should shut up more. Maybe there's something I need to do here, or maybe 9 out of 10 people have a problem. I don't know.
All right. Well, I'll be one of those people. So, thank you guys so much for watching this video as always. Questions and comments, direct those to contact us at TheBrothersWISP.com, or if you want an immediate response, like 30 seconds or less, that's going to be on Facebook, and that's all moderated by Mike. He's the mom of the group, always pushing us. So if you guys like this accelerated schedule, that's all from Mike pushing. And we finally decided to kind of turn things around and start pumping out this content on a regular schedule. So, questions, comments. I want to do a question and answer show. I'm just going to beat this horse until somebody actually sends us a few questions. So we've gotten a couple in. We just need a few more in the bag so that we can kind of get a whole cast together. So please send some stuff that way. I guess that's going to be it. One last thing is, Mike, if somebody wants to contact you, what's the best method to do that?
Facebook, I suppose. Yeah, as you alluded to earlier, I am on that pretty well. But yeah, if you just Google my name, you'll find a million ways of contacting me.
Gotcha. Miller
don't use all of them.
Yeah, all right. Miller has zero interest in talking to anyone. He does have a blog that I'm gonna pimp. Do you have a contact form on that blog, or?
I do. I'm also on Facebook.
All right, there you go. There you go. What's the name of your blog?
EYNstatic.net.
There you go.
EYNstatic.net.
so people can find you there. Smith, how can people contact you?
By telephone.
No, nobody does that. Might as well send smoke
I know.
signals.
Tom.Smith at wirelessconnect.eu, spelt with a Y, the Smith part is. And also Tom Wireless Connect EU, all one word, on Skype.
All right, excellent.
Facebook is kind of more for informal chats, so I prefer you hit me up on formal things.
For sure.
Like it's in, I don't mind you, if you're stuck and I'm not answering anything else, yeah, hit me on Facebook. But like you can friend me on Facebook, but that's to send me like ridiculous videos of kangaroos shooting guns and stuff, as opposed to technical things.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I'd like to jump in with a quick note. Facebook, we have hit 95 likes. We've added 95 likes this week. So hopefully you guys can add us 5 more. Try and get 100 likes 100 new likes this week.
We'll see what happens. See, Mike's under the impression that I'm going to get this video turned around that quick. We'll see what happens. If you want to contact me, I'm at gregsoul.com, where I used to and occasionally still do pour out pointless things, and you can jump on there and get a little dumber. Or you can hit me on strayanet.com. That's where I'm trying to do MDU service sort of thing. You bring the internet. I'll give most of the money to the property owner, and I'll just take a little tiny little crumb for myself. Everybody wins, right? So again, keep listening. Tell your friends. Tell your enemies. Tell everyone. I don't care who you tell. Just tell people about the Brothers Wisp. And thanks, and see you next time, guys.